Hello. Nice. Hey everyone. Oh, yo. Hey, we're gonna get started. My name is Jordan. Thanks everyone for coming out. I'm gonna be the host for today. I'm a product designer at Theragun, and today we're gonna go through Lottie animations and how to integrate them with Webflow websites. But before that, we're gonna have Nelson come out here, and he's gonna talk a little bit about some upcoming events.
Yeah, this is not hooked up to any PA or anything. I'm just live streaming right now for people who couldn't come. But yeah, you want to put up the? Okay, cool. So first, my name is Nelson Alves Jr. I'm a designer evangelist over at Webflow. How many people here have used Webflow, or have heard? Yeah, nice. Dude, back then, like 3 years ago or something, how many people have used Webflow? What's that? And like one person would be like, I think I've heard about it. Is that like WordPress or something? Okay. Well, anyways, how many of you have been using? With your hands up, how many have been using Webflow for at least 6 months? Ooh. Okay, a year. Okay, 2 years. 3 years. How long? Yes! Nice! You get extra stickers. Congratulations. Yes. And anyone else? Long-time user? Oh, wait, did you all come? Were you the ones who came down to San Diego?
Yeah, not Ali.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you- Yes. Y'all rock. Anyways, yeah. So, if you haven't used Webflow yet, please webflow.com. Go ahead and create a free account and just try it for yourself. And just a little bit about Webflow. It's a professional design tool that helps people create sites and small web apps without having to code. And the video that we're going to show you is basically our company, our founders' mission, their whole vision about where the web should be very soon, in a very small minute and 30-second video. And I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank you all so much for coming, because having this much of support for Webflow means a lot to the team and to all the fans, because this is a new revolution that we're all learning and all helping to push. So thank you all so much. Let's check out this video. I hope it has audio. Did we check audio? No, we didn't check audio. Pause. Hold on. Oh, check your system settings. Yeah, let me see.
Alright.
You can hold Alt right here. Wait, where's your Alt?
No, you have to go to system preferences.
Oh, sheesh. Okay.
Here we go.
Did it work? Okay, sound.
HDMI. Gotcha.
Please work.
Output?
It already is.
It's on DisplayPort.
Huh.
Oh man.
You should put that just for next time.
Yeah. Hold on. And the WeWork staff isn't here. Huh? Oh, right there. Audio in right there.
Interesting.
Dang.
That's an on stuff.
I guess that doesn't. Do you want to just do?
Internal speakers?
I don't know if it'll bump it, but we'll try.
See what output did. Let's go.
Yeah, just do all the way up.
Let's go. Alright, everyone needs to be a little quiet.
Today, the world runs on code. Every text you send, every website you visit, every screen you swipe, it's all driven by code. Code that only a fraction of the world can even understand. And that's a problem. Imagine if only 1 out of every 400 people knew how to write. think how many world-changing ideas would have never seen the light of day. We'd be stuck in the dark ages. And when it comes to software development, we kind of are. So what if, instead of writing hundreds of lines of code to add new features to your website, you could just design them directly on your website? What if you could create the next world-changing product without writing a single line of code? That's the future for creators, and it's about to change everything. It's time to unleash the power of software development to everyone by making it visual, so anyone can harness the power of code to build a website, an app, or an entire business without actually writing it. At Webflow, we're doing exactly that. We're empowering creators to design, build, and launch amazing things. No code required. Welcome to the future of software development. Welcome to the age of no code.
Nice.
Fire video.
That sounded really good over here.
I don't. So, how many of you in the back couldn't really hear what was being narrated? You're able to hear it? Hear the mission? Okay, good, because that's the most important part. And again, just to reiterate, 1 in 4 people on this planet, this space rock, can code. And that means only those people know how to unlock the power of software, unlock the power for things that everyone uses every day.
You say 1 in 4?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Is it less?
1 in 4.
Maybe less?
1 in 400.
1 in 400?
I think that's closer.
Yeah.
1 in 4 cannot code.
Okay, 1 in 400 or whatever the stat is, and I could be wrong, it's kind of sad. And plus, most code is written in English. And so if you're not a native English speaker, there's another block right there. And so hopefully, with this no-code revolution, we can push forward on something big that we can all unlock the power of code for so many different industries. All right, so No Code Revolution is Webflow's first conference. If you're interested in coming up to San Francisco on November 12th through 13th, please come on by. You'll learn a lot, and you'll hear from a lot of great speakers from a lot of big companies. NoCodeConf.com. Yeah, put it up. Cool. So NoCodeConf.com. Check it out, and if you have any questions about it, I will be here after presentation. So thank you all so much for being here, and Hottie.
I can take. Okay. Let's do that. Alrighty, how's it going, everyone? Like Nelson said, thanks for coming out. Appreciate the turnout. So today we're going to be covering Lottie animations, and we're going to go over the workflow on how to create them, and I'll be covering the creation process, and then we're going to hand it off to Jordan, and he's going to cover the implementation process in Webflow. So who here has experience with motion design or animation? Great. Who here has experience exporting Lotties at all? Perfect. Okay, good to know. So the tools you'll need today are Adobe Illustrator, Adobe After Effects, the Body Movement plugin for After Effects, and of course Webflow if you're working with a Webflow website. But if not, just you're exporting JSON files that are the Lottie files. So some of the limitations in Body Movement are kind of tricky. So it's not as simple as motion design for videos. So with that being said, let's hop into, do you mind if I take that HDMI cord?
Yeah, go ahead. Just the
yeah,
cord,
you can just
huh?
unplug it and then
Nice.
I'll take over.
There you go.
Thank you. Yep. So all the links that I'm using we'll share at the end of the presentation so you guys can reference later on. But let's hop right in. So your best friend when working with Lotties is the support page right here on GitHub. It covers all the things that are supported and unsupported by Lottie. and you'll find that that's kind of I guess that's the only con for using body movement and Lottie is some of the limitations, but a lot of them are easy to work around. But for instance, some of them are super kind of odd, such as like gradients in strokes aren't supported, so that'll break the animation, for instance. But stuff like that. Another good tool to have before we hop in is this preview on lottiefiles.com. So you can drag your JSON files directly here and preview them on different background colors, et cetera, et cetera. Because before this site, you had to export HTML files as well to preview in a web browser, and it was another step. But now it's super easy. You just drop right here. But let's just hop directly into the workflow.
Before we get in it, can we
Yeah.
show them the website so they can see
Oh
the
yeah,
animations?
we definitely should.
Do you have the link right there?
I have it right here. So this is the website that we're working on today.
Go ahead and refresh it.
It's a boosted board website for their, it's a product page for the Boosted Stealth skateboard by Boosted. As you can see here, we have a couple looping animations, and these aren't videos or anything, or GIFs or anything like that. These are actual Lotties like embedded into the website. So this will work on mobile as well, and tablet, et cetera, et cetera. And as you can see here, so these are simple. They're just looping. Scrolling down, when we actually look at the product, these orange illustrations are actually tied to the scroll. So you can go in and out with them, and they're super light files, which is awesome. And again, they are actual assets, so like you can use them on mobile, tablet, etc. So, is there anything else you want to cover before we hop into the workflow?
No, I think that's it. We just had to show
Great.
the site.
All right, so step one in creating one of these animations, we're going to go ahead and create this speedometer animation right here. So step one, we're going to hop into Figma. So Jordan designed this website, and he designed it in Figma. So we're going to hop into his project file and pull the design that we need, which is, in this instance, the speedometer. So we'll go ahead and highlight this. A really important step is to export as a vector file and not a PNG. If this was a video, I would use PNGs because they're light and transparent and familiar, everything like that. But since we're exporting with body movement, we need vector files. That's really important. And another thing with body movement is that it's really sensitive. So if you kind of skew with any of the things that I say, like there's a good chance that it'll break. And most likely, anything that you export will break, and it'll take you like 5-6 tries to actually get the desired output that you're looking for. And that's kind of almost like the fun of it. I don't know if you guys think that's fun. I think it's kind of fun. But so we go ahead and download the vector file, hop into our downloads. We have it here. The important next step is opening these in Adobe Illustrator. So we can go ahead, Command O, hop into Illustrator, and yeah. Yeah, so they're SVGs, so you can use any SVG. So if you're working with a designer, or you are a designer that works in Sketch or Illustrator or anything like that, all you need is a vector file. And then once you have your vector file, you're going to throw it into Illustrator. And that's a really important step, is to throw it into Illustrator. So here we have the gauge part, and we can throw in the needle right here. Oops. And this, there we go. So, there we go. Okay. So we have our vector file in Illustrator now. That next step is complete. The next step is to go to highlight your layer, pull this drop-down menu, and release layers to sequence. Another super important step. If you forget this, game over. Go ahead, drag your 2 layers out of the folder, and we can go ahead and save. So save as, And I made a folder for this presentation, which is right here. I'm gonna throw it right here, so we have it there. So in that, I have our source folder. I'll just name this gauge real quick. And we're going to go ahead and save this not as a vector file, because then we'll just end up right where we were a few seconds ago. We're going to save this as an Illustrator file so that we can drag that into After Effects and have our actual shape layers in After Effects. So go ahead and save. And we can minimize this and open After Effects. And so here is our Illustrator file. We have that ready for when After Effects opens. And we'll make this a new project. Cool. So we have After Effects open. We can go ahead and drag our Illustrator file in. Another important step that you don't want to forget, this will most likely be marked or selected as footage. That's like the default setting, I think. You're going to go ahead and select composition, and then you can keep layer size as layer size. And OK. So that's going to open up a composition in After Effects. And for those of you that don't know, a composition in After Effects is like an artboard in Illustrator or anything like that. So here we go. We have our two layers. I accidentally exported the empty folder as well, so we can delete that. So we have our needle and our gauge. So, and we're at the resolution that we're working in right now is 27 by 21. This doesn't matter. So with Lottie and body moving, resolution doesn't matter at all, but it's good to work in a resolution that you can see like what's going on. For instance, we can't see really anything here. It's like super blurry. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the composition size to like 150 by 150 so we can see what's going on a little bit better. And I'm gonna scale these both up. So I'm gonna parent, before that actually, let's rename our layers. Actually, before that, let's, the next important step that we have to do is make these Illustrator layers into actual shape layers for After Effects to recognize, so we can actually animate those. So go ahead and highlight your two layers, right-click, and create shapes from vector layer. Again, another huge, huge step. If you go ahead and start animating these Illustrator files and export with body moving, you'll get some crazy error, and essentially like you won't even see your animation. It'll just be broken. So we're going to go ahead and create these shape layers, and we can delete these. I'm going to rename this gauge so we know what's going on, and this needle. So I'm going to go ahead and parent the needle to the gauge. So if you hit S on your keyboard, it'll bring up the scale values. So right now, if we scale up the gauge, the needle does nothing. But if we parent the needle to the gauge, it'll go ahead and follow those same values. So it'll scale up both of them. And we're going to hop into these layers, drop into contents, go down to group, and only have the things that we need. For instance, sometimes if you have a background layer or something like that, there'll be like a square around here, and you'll see that. You won't see that here in your actual animation on the timeline, but once you export, you'll see a square around your needle or whatever it is you're working with. So you want to go ahead and make sure that like all your layers are really clean and you literally only have what you want. So it's looking like our gauge is also fine, which is good. So we have our layers, and let's go back to the website so I can show you guys the desired effect that we're trying to achieve. So we're trying to get this to rev out and hit rev limiter and kind of like bounce around and then come back down and then loop that for forever. So let's hop back into After Effects. So you can hit R on your keyboard to bring up the rotation. And this right here is the anchor point for those of you that don't know in After Effects, I guess. So right now, if we just rotate, it'll rotate on that axis, which is what we don't want that, essentially. So let's bring up our rulers and find where we want the center of this needle to be. I like right there. And we'll go ahead. I'm kind of eyeballing stuff here for the sake of the presentation, but obviously make sure everything's like geometric and whatnot and your designs are proper. So you can hit Y on your keyboard to bring up the anchor point tool and hold Control to anchor it to the ruler lines that we have. And you can get rid of those. So now that when we animate this, it looks like an actual gauge, which is awesome. So I guess minus 154 degrees is where we want this to start. So is anyone here familiar with keyframes or how that works at all? Awesome. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, a keyframe is setting a value at a certain point of time. So for instance, at 0 seconds, we want the needle to be at minus 154 degrees, which is how it's placed right here. So you go ahead and click this super tiny stopwatch to set your keyframe, and this little diamond right here is the actual keyframe. So you can move this around, but we want that at 0 seconds right now, and you'll see why in a second. So this is our starting point. Let's say at 1 second flat, we want it to hit rev limiter. So we'll go ahead and we'll make rev limiter around there. So now we have a super basic animation. So over the course of a second, we rotate there and it holds there. So your last keyframe is the resolve of your animation. And if we wanted to go back down, we can bring it back to the initial starting point. So you just copy paste that value, or that keyframe I should say, and now we have it going up and down. I won't bore you guys with like super nitty-gritty details of actually making like the rev limiter bounce. I can open up the actual project file with all those other animations that I used, but this is kind of just to show you guys how to export a Lottie and how to go about things. So the shape, like working in shape layers is extremely important. Working with vector files, with Illustrator, all those things that I mentioned are extremely, extremely important. And I'll show you in a second. I'll show you. So we have our animation, and it technically loops if it just played again. But we have all this extra time after the animation. So we're gonna go to our last keyframe and hit N to I guess end our timeline. And now when we press play, there's none of that extra time. It'll kind of just bounce back and forth forever. And again, we're only in 150 by 150, our resolution. But again, that doesn't matter at all. We can be 1,000 by 1,000, 1 by 1, anything. As long as the shape layers are there, we'll be exporting JSON files, and JSON files act like vector files, so they can expand infinitely, and they're just really lightweight, and they're great to work with, which is awesome. So let's not do that yet. So let's pretend this is the desired animation that we want, and we're ready to export. The next step is to export with body movement, which for me, I already have it installed. It's under Window, Extensions, and Body Movement. At the end of this presentation, I'll show you guys a link as to where to download the plugin. It's a free plugin. They have a pay what you want system, so you can donate money if you want, but it's free at the end of the day. So you go ahead and open Body Movement. It's just a simple extension. If we had multiple compositions, we would see them here, but we only have the gauge composition. So we go ahead and select it, and I want to highlight this actually. This is actually really fun. This is why I love Lottie. Look at that. It's not necessary at all, but I love it, you know?
It's necessary.
And if you guys want, we can hop into settings. Glyphs is what we want. That's what's gonna export the JSON file that we're gonna work with in Webflow. But before this test site that I was telling you guys about, you would have to export a demo as well to export a HTML local preview. And that will just open up a link into Chrome or Safari, whatever web browser you use, and you'll see your animation preview there. But we don't need that because we have that Lottie Files website with a preview. So all we need is the glyph, the JSON file, and we'll set our destination in our output folder, and we'll name this speedometer. And another awesome thing about body movement is that if you guys aren't familiar, like animations are usually pretty heavy, and exporting animation takes like hours sometimes if they're really complex. This one isn't complex, so it would have rendered fast regardless, but even complex animations, body movement exports like super fast. It's actually really impressive. So if we go into our output folder now, we have our JSON file, and let's drag it into that preview site to see if anything broke. Yeah.
Can you explain what a JSON file is for people who don't know?
Yeah, so the JSON file is a super lightweight. Is it a vector file? It behaves like a vector file in the sense.
I think it's
It's code.
JavaScript code. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So
There
it's
it is.
JavaScript.
Look at that.
And I don't know that because this is where my workflow almost ends, you know what I mean, after this delivery.
Web browser sends a request to the JavaScript engine, and then from there, that's why it is a JavaScript file.
Cool.
It goes
Nice.
there, and then it goes, that's what's getting all the parameters right from the vector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's all stored in the file.
It's literally a
Nice.
bunch of code.
Yeah.
Yeah. Open the Dropbox link or on Dropbox. Can you do that? And you actually see all the code. It's kind of wild.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Never mind. I think if you.
Or I'll do it.
Okay.
I think I have it on here.
So we'll go ahead and preview our JSON file in the preview site. So go ahead and click and drag. It's as simple as that. It's invisible right now because the background color is white, but there she is. And it's transparent, as you can see, so you can change the different background colors depending on the color of your animation, so you can see it. And luckily, everything works. That's kind of like rare. Don't expect anything to work first try. Oftentimes, things are broken. A lot of things aren't supported. For instance, when I first tried this, I tried using a wiggle expression so that it would be a randomized movement on the rotation. And I'll show you guys what that looked like, because it wasn't supported by body movement. And that's another thing, is like you kind of just have to like, it's all trial and error, and like figuring out what is and is not supported by body movement. Let's see.
So yeah, to plug in, you can put that into Figma, right? Or like Illustrator or any of those. However, you're saying like mine is
The plugin?
yeah.
The plugin only works in After Effects.
It only works in that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
You tested compatibility on the browser. Yeah, on lottiefiles.com. Is that the name of the website?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So here's the first speedometer animation that I made. And essentially it was kind of just like wiggling back and forth on, I'll show you here actually. So I did not want it to look like this, but it looked like that because expressions weren't supported.
Yeah.
So the actual animation was kind of just like really softly going back and forth right here and just like looping there. And it was like, it looked great in the After Effects preview, but when we exported it again, it looked like this, and I laughed out loud. So that's when I knew that expressions weren't supported, so I went back in and actually did like keyframes, which is more time consuming, but it's supported. So oftentimes you really have to work around the limitations of body movement. And yeah, it's part of the process. So let's go ahead and hop into, I'll save this just in case.
I love the folder structure.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad someone noticed that.
Yeah.
I take a lot of pride in that actually, because I used to have really bad habits, but no more. So this is the actual project file that I used to create all the animations that you see in the website. So I'll go ahead and show you guys around there to show like more complex stuff and maybe cover a couple other limitations.
Can you explain the Photoshop, not the Photoshop, the Adobe Illustrator process again, the sequencing of
Yeah,
the layers?
of course.
And what that particularly does, because I was a little, really quick, and that seems very critical.
Yeah, it's super critical. Sorry that I blasted through that. I'll go over it again right now. Let's see. Okay, so here's our actual project file, but let's do the Illustrator thing real quick. So, we have in our presentation, in our source folder, this is Oh no, sorry, that's in downloads. So in our downloads, we have these vector files. I'll move them here just to continue the folder structure. Yeah, so I got these vector files from Jordan's Figma project file. So like anything here we can export as a vector file. But any vector file will work. Like you can find it online. Any sort of like icons, Illustrator files, sketch files, you just need to export as a vector file. Unless it actually is in Illustrator, then you can just work straight from Illustrator.
The particular part was the sequencing that you
Yeah.
said?
Okay.
I'm really confused.
Let's hop into that then. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Import. Oh, sorry. Open. So we'll grab our SVG again. We'll open that up. So we have our SVG here, and you're going to go ahead and highlight your layer, pull this drop-down menu, and release layers sequence. That's exactly what you need.
It's up there, okay.
Yeah.
And what does that particularly do? Like, what is the sequence?
It separates the layers into, it separates the folder into individual layers, because if you don't do that, if you have like multiple shapes inside of that folder, this one's simple because it's just the needle inside of the folder.
But moving them, yeah.
Yeah, so if you bring that full folder into After Effects will treat that full folder as one layer. So like we wouldn't be able to rotate our needle, it would just rotate like the whole gauge, you know what I mean? So it's more important when you have a lot of moving parts and stuff like that. So again, highlight, pull this drop down, go to sequence, and just as important as that last step is you have to pull this out of the folder, because if you do that and don't pull it out of the folder, you have the same issue. Everything's stuck inside of the folder. So you can even go ahead and delete this guy, like so.
Yeah, that totally provides the clarity.
Awesome,
Oh,
perfect,
cool.
yeah. So if you have many layers inside of that folder, you drag all of them just right outside and your money. So we'll ignore that. Let's hop back into the After Effects project file. So here's the actual speedometer animation that we did, or that we used on the website. And it's a little bit more complex than the one that I just did in the presentation. For instance, it's really just like the easing and like this little rev limiter bounce right here. I guess I'll just show you guys the easing. So when you guys make keyframes, the little diamonds like in the timeline and stuff, every animation that you make will be linear. So there won't be any sort of like slow down or speed up in your animation. It'll just be like a loading bar, just 100% speed the whole entire time. And that's like really robotic, and it looks like this. Like this isn't the most impressive animation. It's just like super linear and kind of boring. This one here, I don't know if you can tell, like just like with the naked eye or whatever, but things like it slows down, it kind of like speeds up and then bounces around and then like slows back down and it like slows to a halt. And that's because we hopped into this little graph editor right here. So you just select one of your keyframes, make sure it's highlighted, and plop in right here. And like this is what kind of took a while, is easing all of these keyframes. So you're going to want to make sure you're in the speed graph. Sometimes it'll default to the value graph, and that's like a whole other thing. I like working in the speed graph because it's for easing at least. So essentially, we're starting at this speed, and then it kind of slows down. And here's where the rev limiter is, where it kind of bounces around. And then again, we're starting at full speed, and then it slows back down to a stop. So that's what achieves this effect versus the linear.
Sorry, so that keyframe was only for speed. It was only set on speed of the
Correct, yeah. So again, you're going to highlight your keyframe, make sure it's blue, and then drop down the graph editor. And then down here, sorry. Yeah, things are really small for you guys, my bad. It's just like this little choose graph type and option. And you're going to make sure you are in edit speed graph, because I think the default is value graph, but since I work in After Effects a lot, it just remembers that I use speed graph a lot. So make sure you're in speed graph, and this will look familiar. But so you guys can see some the process of like actually easing, I'll play with the scale of this guy. Again, you're going to want to parent your needle to your gauge to make sure that they're both following each other. And let's just say we want it to get 10, 20%, 30% larger, and then back down to the initial starting point. So right now, it just like grows linearly and then bounces back down. To ease those and to achieve this effect, or like to actually like start easing things and like have the effect that you're looking for, you go ahead and highlight your linear keyframes. When they're diamonds like this, that means that they're linear and there's no like slow down or speed up of your values. You're going to go ahead and hit function F9, and that essentially just easy eases your animation. So I'm going to hit Control Z. This is what things look like when they're linear. It's just like constant speed, dead stop, constant speed, dead stop. And then when you go ahead and function F9 to hit easy ease, and it gives you these little like hourglass looking things. When you hop back in, everything's smooth and it's a lot more fluid and stuff like that. So I don't know if you guys can see the difference there, like with like kind of just the choreography of things. And to take it a step further, you can go ahead and highlight these points and drag them. And since we're in the speed graph, it's a lot like clearer in my opinion. And you can go ahead and drag things, and so essentially we're changing the speed values. So at this point here, things are moving faster than here. And it's kind of like hard to just see and understand initially. You really have to play with it and kind of just like find your marbles, you know what I mean? But for instance, that's what that ease looks like. But again, this is just to show you guys like easing and whatnot. So you kind of, I guess, get a grasp of what we did with everything else. So I'll go ahead and delete all those keyframes. And we got our normal animation again. And let's see. So here we have this one. We're just animating the path on these guys. This one's a little bit more complex because we're having things bounce and stuff. And again, all of these are shape layers. We're not working with any PNGs or SVGs, JPEGs, nothing. They have to be shape layers. And let's see, let me reference my notes real quick.
Do you have this one?
Yeah.
Like available? Can we show them that one?
Yeah, so this is like my personal favorite just because. So we have the arm extending and the circle expanding, and then the regenerative braking icon rotating as well, and the dotted lines under it fading in accordingly. And everything has pretty specific ease. I kind of like created a design language, at least with those arms, so that they all have the same easing and scaling and everything like that. Even like the opacity of this dotted line is the same across all the dotted lines, you know what I mean? Like it's important to like practice, what's the word? I don't know the word.
Consistency.
Consistency, yeah.
Continuity.
Yeah,
I got
so
synonyms.
for instance, here's our arm. It is using a trim path effect, meaning it's kind of just expanding, or it's not expanding, like lengthening itself. And our circle is expanding and changing its position accordingly to match the trim path stroke. And within that, we have our recharge icon and the dotted line. And those are parented to the circle so that they follow the circle's movement. And they expand with the circle and everything like that. That's how you're getting that effect. Yeah. And what's cool is that you can kind of just like play with it here and get a grasp of how it's going to feel in the website. Because I knew this one was going to be a scrolling animation. So I was like constantly playing it like this because I knew like people would just be scrolling in and out like that on the website.
Yeah.
So I achieved the effect that I liked here. One thing I should show you guys though is, let me show you the actual JSON file of that and show you how it's different than the preview in After Effects, because that's really important to know. So we'll go to output, product features, 03. So these are all the different versions because like you just have to like, it's just trial and error honestly. So we'll go back into our preview file, and we'll drag it in. So luckily nothing's broken here, and everything looked how I wanted it to look, and we achieved the desired effect that I was looking for. But if you notice, the actual like rotation of, sorry, the actual orientation of the orange recharge icon is different here than here. And I don't like the way it looks here, but in that trial and error that you guys saw, all these different attempts and versions that I was trying, version 12 ended up being the right one. I was kind of just like playing with the orientation of this, let's see, to achieve the desired effect that I wanted in the actual JSON file. So here, it doesn't look how I want it to look, but when I exported it, it looked how I wanted it to look. So it's really just, again, like trial and error, tweaking things, kind of playing around. And it's not always like super like cut and dry, and like things don't always go how you expect it. But again, it's just part of the plugin. Like that's just how it behaves.
And I'll also say, this is the reason you want to do Lottie. Like if you just see how this animation is behaving, we have isometric shapes rotating while like the arm and the circle scaled out. Hand coding that and building that, and like even in Webflow will take a lot of time, and from what you've seen, like it's very, very like granular work, and it's very, very precise. So having like a motion designer whip that out, and you just link it to Webflow, is really, really great. And this is, to me, the reason why you want to do Lottie right here. To get complicated animations that you can just use on your website on the fly.
Yeah, so like as a lot of you know already, like Webflow is pretty awesome because you can animate things within the actual platform or the service. But it's times like this where you want to use Lottie and body movement for like really complex designs that, complex for Webflow at least, you know? Where there's like moving parts, on moving parts, and like parented objects and stuff like that. And what's awesome about all of this is that this file is how big?
I can tell you.
11 kilobytes.
Yeah.
So this complex animation is 11 kilobytes, and that alone is just like really cool, you know what I mean? Another thing to note, I forgot to mention this earlier, is notice when I hit play, this loops immediately, and there is no hang time. If this was a video, I would want the resolved animation to like hang out for a bit so the viewer can like recognize it and like appreciate it and stuff. I would want it to like chill here for a second, and just so you can like appreciate the animation. But it's really important not to have any unnecessary time after your animation has resolved, because I think I did that on accident on one of the versions where I sent it to you. And when Jordan plugged it into the Webflow website, the animation happened and it resolved, and we wanted that one to loop. It was one of the looping ones, but it didn't loop. It stayed static for I think like 2-3 seconds, then looped. So it's really important to make sure that your timeline is exactly the length that you need it, and literally like not any frame further.
Yeah, and that's actually super important because I was downloading random Lottie files from Lottie.com, and some people didn't clip the timeline. So when I animated it in Webflow, the animation disappears as the final frame. So really, really want to highlight that.
There, if you're downloading stuff from the Lottie website, I've seen it.
Yeah.
So if you get to that stage, you have this file, you don't have the After Effects or anything. What do you do at that point?
So in Webflow, you actually just, instead of letting it go to frame 100, you just stop it at 98.2 or something. Wherever they made that mistake, you kind of adjust the interaction. So that's how I was able to remedy that. But it's just much cleaner when you have better files. So yeah, super important note.
True. So again, as you can see, my last keyframe is this one right here, and it's the last frame of the composition. Same thing with the beginning. First frame is the first keyframe. And if you're working in a composition that's like 30 seconds long or something, all you have to do is pull this right here, and you can shorten your, your timeline.
That's the loop right there.
Yeah, so like this is our looping animation. But for instance, like if the animation ended here or something, you can just drag this out. So when you export, it only exports this highlighted area right there. And similarly, you can press B and N to create, like, it's just the easier shortcut. So again, B and N to use that. And I actually made a wrong speedometer. So this is the same animation as the one used on the website, but it's using PNGs and not shape layers. So let's go Oops. So let's go ahead and export this one just so you guys like see like a broken one, you know what I mean? Because you're for sure gonna experience a broken one if you go ahead and try and do this. Yeah, we're
Oh.
flickering a little bit.
That's me. Yeah.
Right here. Can you make sure it's plugged in all the way? Oh, it unplugged there.
Down that side?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Completely. Yeah. These are the issues when you sit on the cable. There we go.
Cool.
Technical difficulties.
There we go. Okay. So I don't know when that turned off, but so I have the same animation here, the speedometer animation that we've been working with, but again, this one's made out of PNGs instead of the Adobe shape layers that we want to be working in, and I labeled it wrong speedometer. So we'll go ahead and export this so you guys can see a broken one. And again, this is the actual project file, so we have a lot of different compositions. So this is all the different compositions. You're gonna want to make sure you highlight the correct one. So this is the wrong speedometer. We'll go ahead and export to, I'll just do the presentation folder again. And we'll save it. You don't get any errors here. Sometimes you get errors here. It'll just let you know, like if one of your, just anything really, like sometimes we get like an error right here and it'll let you know right off the bat, but we didn't get anything here. So far so good, right? And we'll go ahead and preview this in the Lottie preview, and you will see that it is, so we have our speedometer. Go ahead and drop it in here, and you just get some like weird error.
Wow, looks
for
like
PNGs.
Mario.
Yeah, if that's what you're looking for, do you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's an instance of like, that's what it actually looked like if you were trying to work with PNGs, and you guys already saw the other speedometer, this guy. So like, things can break left and right, but just like keep trying, keep tweaking stuff, figure out what the root of the problem is, and like just make sure your animation's looking on point at the end of the day.
Cool.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah.
It's like a super fast Civic or something. But so I guess I'll go over my delivery process real quick. So here's all the actual working files. I'll share this whole file here with all you guys. So you'll have like my source files, my working files, and yeah, I can share it with you guys. So we have our output folder, and again, these are all the different versions that we were trying out and stuff. Like things were breaking with left and right, but I made a delivery folder for Jordan with all the correct ones, and sent him a Dropbox link of that. So he had all the JSON files that he needed to implement them into his Webflow website. So with that being said, if there isn't any, is there any questions on anything that I've covered? Because if not, I'm gonna hand it off to Jordan to show the Webflow side of things. Anything? Nice,
Awesome.
solid, right on.
Good job, dude.
Thank you. Here is the mics.
There you go. Get the fancy mic. Let's do it. Well. All right. Let me unplug you. All right. Cool. Oh, there we go. So as everyone saw, like creating animated Lottie files is super complicated. It takes a lot of time. And that's definitely the route you want to go before attempting to do it on the web or hand coding or anything like that. So the way it integrates into Webflow is pretty neat. Essentially, first let's just go through the website real quick. I'll explain. Down here we have some Lottie files. Whoa. And these are just looping animations. These are the ones Hadi was showing you. And you essentially just add a Lottie block. And then from there, you can upload the file that Hadi sends over, and you can either loop it, use the built-in easing that he was talking about. And then at that point, you already have a working looping Lottie file. For these, you got to do a little more work. But these are the animations he built in After Effects. And as you can see, like they're fairly complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces. And I'm going to show you how to link those up real quick. But if anyone is unfamiliar, this is the Webflow Designer. This is where you build sites visually. And then over here, you have the actual live site, which behaves exactly in the same way. And we'll hop into that. So I think to kind of give everyone an idea of how like simple it is to integrate these animations, I'm going to just do one real quick. But this one I downloaded from Lottie.com, or LottieFiles.com, which is probably the first thing most people will do. You go to this website. You can go to animations. This is the website where Hadi was testing his animations to see if they're viable. And then previews right here. And this is where you like throw in the Lottie JSON files. And that's how Hadi was previewing those, seeing which ones had errors, etc. So I went in there. I found a quick hamburger menu. Another cool thing about this website, though, is there's an orange background. And I don't have, I need a black background. You can actually go in and change the code of someone's Lottie's animation. So if Hadi's was uploaded to Lottie, I could go in there and change like the border color and stuff like that. But right here you have the files or shape layers, and then I can turn that black. I can update it, and then bam, I have a Lottie specific to my website. So I ended up downloading this one right here, and then this is just the native icon that comes with Webflow. I'm going to go ahead and turn that one off. Here's the old one, but I'll just show you how to add one real quick. So in your designer, you have all these elements, and the one we're looking for is Lottie animation. You click that one. It's going to behave a little weird in the bounding box, but essentially you just go to choose Lottie sequence. You go to upload. I kind of already have it, so I'm just going to click it. But normally you'd upload, go through your computer, find it there, and then bam. So I click that. It's static at the moment, but I click the element that it's contained in, and then I just delete this one, because that's the old one, and then I'll just make a new one on the fly. So we got first click and second click on this interaction. So I'm going to go ahead and do start animation. I'm going to do menu click 1.1 because I already did this. And then I'm going to select the Lottie that I just uploaded. I'm going to click Lottie in the integrations. And this is the point I was making earlier. Sometimes when they go to 100, they just disappear. That's because they didn't trim the fat off their animation, and essentially it's a bad Lottie. But a way to like remedy that is just kind of go back in the sequence and see where that animation, or what frame that animation stops where you need it. So in this case, it's 9.9. I'm just going to do 9.8 because that's what I did on the last one. And then with Webflow, you can put your own easing if you want to do that. I like out circ, so we're going to do that one. And that's the first step. Click out of that guy. Now we got to do the second click, which would be the animation moving backwards in the sequence. So very quickly, I'll do that. Menu, click, close. Click the same Lottie animation, and click that guy. And it's already at 0. Just do that at 0.6. I'm also going to do out circ. And you can also preview stuff in here, but I guess it didn't work for the Lottie animation. That's something you got to do live. So here's the website. Here's the Lottie animation I just uploaded, and it's already working. So that's about as complicated as it gets with integrating Lottie animations. And that's why I would say you want to go this route versus creating complex animations. Like there's some stuff you can do in Webflow. Like this homepage, for example, these elements, as they slide in and kind of scale and become more visible, we did that in Webflow. But little animations like this little bouncing guy, you cannot really do in Webflow. And then this guy over here with the rotating circle and the scaling effect, very, very difficult to do that in Webflow and hard code that in general. So these are the reasons you want to think about using Lottie in your animations. And it just brings so much life to the website. And I'm going to share this so everyone can kind of like reference it and play with it later. But that's about as hard as it is to upload animations. I'm just going to also go through how I made these real quick because we kind of blasted through that. There's not that much when it comes to integrating these guys. So this is for these guys over here. We just uploaded a Lottie. We put loop. And that's how you get this effect of these guys looping, right? So that's all you have to do to make those animations come live. This one over here, we added a click animation. So you click it, and that's how you activate the Lottie. These down here, it's a scroll-based animation. So you can use multiple triggers to activate the Lotties and use them however you want in your site. But just to kind of give you guys a preview of what that kind of looks like and how you would do that, this is the timeline when you're doing a scroll interaction. And you can select certain elements. You see, you click it here, and it shows you where it is in the timeline. And that's how you start piecing the animations together. You'll see right here I have a Lottie animation. And then I have the sequence 100%, 100%, 0%, 0%. And that's how they start coming into play.
Put all in the same scroll animation, scroll action, all in one.
Yeah, for this one, yeah. And that's because I like that you can go backwards with these. And being a user and going through that experience, it gives you a lot of control, and it's just very, very enjoyable. The alternative would be making them independently.
I've done it independently, and I've found not as much success. This looks like a better way of doing it.
Yeah, definitely, especially if you want things to kind of interact together. Instead of kind of guessing and remembering the timings that you use, you just put everything on a timeline, have it appear with the animation, and that's it. That's how you integrate Lottie animations into Webflow websites. Yeah, yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention, I said before how resolution doesn't matter in your compositions in After Effects. That's still true, but what does matter is the amount of padding that you have around your actual animation in the artboard. So if you're at 1,000 by 1,000, make sure that all your animations have the same exact amount of padding around, so that when you plot them in here, there isn't like different padding in different animations. And stuff
Yeah.
Like that. That's another thing.
Order box clipping ever? With these loading files?
Say it again. Sorry.
Order box clipping. Sometimes like in SVGs when you see like the clipper or like the masking page of the box in SVGs that happen.
It would happen here if your animation exceeds the composition.
Right.
But I just wanted to note that 'cause I started that thought but never finished it. Because we did run into that when we were actually making this website.
Yeah.
I kind of had arbitrary padding around all of my animations because I kind of forgot that it mattered. And when Jordan plugged them in here, each line after the animating icon was like different lengths away and whatnot.
Yeah.
You line the left, I noticed the looping ones. That was just choice.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, just keep that in mind. Resolution doesn't matter, but the padding within your actual composition is really important because you'll see that padding here even though it's transparent. And just so you don't have to tweak things in Webflow, just make sure it's like the actual proper
Right.
proper like size. That
Yeah. Proper size. Yeah. Cool. And another reason that's important is if there's no similar kind of bounding box, let's say one of these went edge to edge, like this guy. When you plug it into Webflow, you use the same, let's say I did 32 by 32 pixels. It lives within that frame. If he didn't create the padding, we'd have one icon that's way larger because it just fills up that div block. So very important to have like continuity with all of them. That way they look like they're part of the same icon family. And yeah, that's it. That's all there is to it to create these animations. Yeah. Do we have any questions? Yeah. So to create something like this, I would definitely work with a motion designer, like this guy moving in and out. I don't create that in Webflow. It'd be a lot of work, and most of the time, depending on the budget of the project, you don't want to spend your time doing that. However, a motion designer can like whip that out fairly quickly, give it the level of like complication that you'd want for some kind of interaction like this, and then you saw how easy it is to plug it in. Like developers love Lottie files, and like it's equally as easy in Webflow. So.
That's what's really cool about the body movement plugin is that it makes motion designers that were normally restricted to only exporting like MOVs and MP4s and stuff. Like myself, when I found out about body movement and Lottie in general, I was super excited because out of nowhere, my career changed and now I'm a motion designer for like UI animations and loading animations, stuff like that. Because before, again, I was restricted to only video animation, and I already had the knowledge in After Effects, and like I was pretty proficient in After Effects, but I wasn't able to work with like mobile apps and websites and stuff like that. So all you need to do is find a motion designer that knows the body movement plugin and like that second half of the workflow, and you can easily make stuff like this. It's really powerful solution.
What would you say is the difference between working with like the animator versus like importing like an image file from Illustrator?
It's definitely easier to work with video because that's what After Effects is meant to do, is to create like video, and so there's less limitations. With video, you can often like kind of, I don't want to use the word Mickey Mouse, but you can cut corners sometimes and still achieve the desired effect that you're trying to get. But this, it has to be like built out really properly. For instance, like using shape layers instead of PNGs and stuff. I could have, if I was making a video of all these animations, I would have used PNGs because they're light and easy, and I wouldn't have to go into Illustrator, and I could just download the PNGs and animate them right away. But again, you can't use that with body movement. So to answer your question, video animations are easier because there aren't limitations, and it's just you just use After Effects and its full potential. But with body movement, there's a couple obstacles you have to go around. Huh. Yeah.
It's true though. I guess you're just getting input of the that's it.
Yeah.
There's so many different like cameras and videos that and or like that one PP is important.
Yeah, so just the limitations of body movement is what complicates things, because you kind of just learn it as you're using it, like the different things that break it. Um, but yeah, and it's, I feel like it's just because it's a new plugin still, like I'm sure it'll like update and start supporting more things over time. I've seen more supported like features come like rolled out since I've started using it, but yeah, maybe one day like all of After Effects features will be covered. That'd be super awesome. Or like my expressions get supported. That'd be super lit because then you can go off and do crazy stuff. But yeah.
Nice. Any other questions?
I guess I have one in the way that I do this professionally. So I'd like to ask: is there any way to obfuscate this, or like keep people from like just taking it and jacking it and repurposing it for their own?
Which part? The actual
The
JSON file?
the Lottie file, or any way through the workflow. I mean, I know because Webflow puts everything out so cleanly, so it's just
Oh,
if someone
yeah.
download it.
Right click on a JSON element on the page right now.
Oh, right now? Oh, yeah,
Can you right click on it?
inspect.
And then inspect. What does it do? We'll get out of.
How do I go to?
No, go
On the
to
top,
the top right.
right.
Top right, the little.
Where are we going?
Here, I'll do it. You're on responsive mode.
Oh, gotcha,
Okay.
gotcha.
So we're just wondering. This is. Oh, they can't. Well.
Does it show the code moving as you move? Wow.
Oh,
Check that out.
damn.
Steal that.
That's yeah. So they can't. Because it's all just. Look at what's happening.
Yeah, so it's just code. It's JavaScript.
Webflow magic is.
Yeah, I'm gonna deep down into that and look at that. That's really interesting that it does that.
I guess
That's great.
technically you can copy paste that, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, one frame.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think people can get it.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. Awesome.
Anything else? Do you guys want to hear anything again? Like, I don't know if we went fast at any point.
How cool does this look?
I think,
Yes, it's being live streamed. We'll send out links to your source files, the project site, and this video.
Yeah.
We'll send it through the meetup page. Yeah.
Awesome.
So everyone will get all
You got a question?
First of all, thank you very much
Yeah, of
for
course.
sharing your work and your experience with us. Very interesting. Could you do that, show just the speedometer animation on the website as the final product?
Yeah.
It's the top icon
Yeah. You can see that, I could see here, maybe I think you're probably just trying to demonstrate because in your work when you were demoing it, at the end you also scale the gauge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think for two reasons that's not a very good idea because first of all, animating the gauge is not realistic. Your gauge in your car or speedometer or RPM, they never change time.
Yeah, that's like a static value.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is the technical, because at some point you switch the layers to shape layers. And as you pointed out correctly, up to that point they're vectorless. And so if you want to scale them in terms of size, you got to do all that scaling and finalize. After that, you don't want to scale it anymore. Once you change it to shape, because technically speaking, they become pixels after that.
Interesting.
So if you scale them up,
Yeah.
it will get pixelated. And also, you don't want to scale them anyway because
Well, it wasn't on the demo.
yeah, because they didn't
Just use
scale it
the
out.
style panel and just use the scale.
Oh, gotcha.
Style panel, SVG, you just scale it on. Yeah, it's supposed to be SVG. So we're gonna scale it up to 10.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's crazy.
Oh.
So as you can see there's no pixelation. It's still clean because when it comes to Lottie files, they're all just SVGs.
Yeah, but that's in here, not in the not in After Effects.
I believe it is, and I think it's like when you export out as a video, it becomes pixelated. But with this magic of this application of body moving created by your PE guys, this is the magic we now get. And this is the weird technical
Yeah,
part.
once you get here, you can scale, but inside the After After
Right,
becomes
yeah.
shape layer, you do not want to scale it up anymore. Trust me.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that when you're looping, like in this case, they have a loop that doesn't go all the way to the end back to the frame 0 or frame 1. If you're animating something that loops like that, goes back, and you want to have continuous, and you want to use loop, if you correctly, the first and last frame technically, a lot of animators make it the same.
Yeah.
But if you make it the same and loop it, then the speed of change will vary. In other words, there will be a glitch at when it goes from frame 100 back to frame 0 or 1, depending on where we started. Because on that one frame, you have two frames that are exactly the same. And that's why sometimes you would drop in the last frame.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah,
So in that instance, you would want to drop
the last frame of
the last keyframe so that the first frame is also the last frame.
So if you want to have, for example, 60 seconds, round number, let's say if you have 30 frame animation, and you go and make the last frame 61, so 61 will be exactly the same as 0, 1, then you drop the 61 and becomes 60 frame.
Correct.
And then the motion becomes smooth.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've done that many times. And
Yeah.
that's the way to work that out.
Nice. Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah. Because then you'll have that slight little stutter at the end.
It will not be a little bit of...
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So that kind of reflects what I was saying about making sure that your timeline is the proper length. So like if you wanted to remain static for a little bit as the resolve and then loop, you would want to include that extra couple frames or couple seconds that you want. You know? But yeah, that's a good note to have for sure.
But very interesting. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? Nope.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome.
everyone, for
Yeah, thank you.
coming out.